Russians are not cold. Kujica in Serbian means small penis. Just have walls and you have to pass, like, you need to be selected by them.
Yeah.
But the best looking Serbian girls are leagues above the best looking Russians.
Wow. Pro-Russians or pro-Americans?
In general.
Usually if Serbians think about South Koreans, what do they think of first?
I mean, probably Samsung, let's be honest.
Okay.
That's like the biggest company and
Right.
you know, it's the most famous one. But generally Serbians don't think much about stuff around outside of Europe or outside of the Balkans.
Okay, so Samsung is the most famous.
Well, probably, yeah.
Alright. What about those stuffs like K-pop and all those stuff?
I know for a fact with like some of the younger people, it missed my generation, but I know some of the younger people are very into K-pop. Not as much as like you see in the West or like here even in Russia. It's much less popular, but you know.
You are saying that in Russia it's less popular?
No, in Russia it's more popular.
More popular,
than in Serbia,
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
But in general, it hasn't really been like a huge deal in Serbia, at least not to my knowledge. But then again, I'm a metalhead, I'm a rocker, most of my friends are in that vibe, so. But we have our own music scene and most people either listen to rock or metal or they listen to like Serbian trap and stuff like that.
So the younger generation, they are more familiar with K-pop and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Have you seen Parasite, the movie Parasite?
No, but I know about it.
Is
like,
it famous also in Serbia?
Yeah, it was pretty famous globally.
What about Squid Game?
Oh yeah, everyone wants Squid Game.
Okay.
That's standard.
What do you think about Korean girls?
I am not that picky. I welcome all girls as long as they're lovely.
Okay.
Well, you got one to set me up with.
All right. If anybody is interested in Serbian guy, type in the comments. I'll make sure to connect.
감사합니다.
And what about so Serbians are also Slavic, right?
Yeah, we're Slavic.
So what's the difference between Russians and Serbians?
So generally Serbs separated, and generally all Southern Slavs separated from Eastern and Western Slavs around plus or minus 600, 700 years ago, maybe longer honestly, but let's say properly separated around 700 years ago. And linguistically we were quite similar until like 200, 300 years ago. The language we used to speak before the last big reform was Slaveno-Serbski, which basically was pretty close to what modern Russian is today with their reforms. However, we had one large reform in the 18th century that basically made Serbian. For anyone that's trying to learn Russian and thinks Russian is hard, Serbian is basically Russian plus, with even more grammar, even more rules. It's easier to pronounce.
Okay, so it's quite interesting to hear that Serbian is harder than Russian.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's grammatically harder, but it's easier to pronounce.
Crazy. Yeah. I thought Russian is the hardest language in the world. So how many cases are in Serbian?
7.
7?
Yeah.
No way. So in Russian there are 6 cases grammatically. This is crazy. Okay. I think some, especially guys, will be interested in this topic. So what's the difference between Serbian women and Russian women in terms of appearance, first of all?
So the way I explain it to my friends, the average Russian girl is better looking than the average Serbian girl.
Okay.
But the best looking Serbian girls are leagues above the best looking Russian.
Wow.
That's the way I explain it.
Wow, okay.
You kinda have to deal with the lower average over there, but the peaks are amazing.
Wow.
Also, Serbians, both men and women, are fairly tall. Like, I'm 182 centimeters. I'm average height in Serbia. I feel like a giant.
Okay.
But
You feel like you're tiny.
No, I feel like I'm
In
normal.
Serbia.
Sometimes I feel like I'm short in Serbia. Yeah. It's not weird for me to feel like I'm short in Serbia.
Okay.
Like, half of my friend group is like 185 to 190. And that's just like...
That's tall, yeah. That's really tall.
That's normal for us. That's just normal height. Girls are generally like 175.
175.
Yeah, 175.
That's crazy.
175,
It's
yeah.
like almost like Netherlands or something.
I mean, I think we actually do rank like 3rd or 4th by height in the world. So.
Okay. So what do you think is the secret of... Why do you think Serbians are tall? Like, do you think it's because of food? Let's say, what do you guys eat? Like,
So, we eat a lot of meat.
Okay.
We like a lot of meat.
Makes sense.
And we have high quality meats. It's one of the very few things that we actually kept from the socialist period that's actually good. There was a lot of that during that time, during Yugoslavia. But that's one of the good things, where the government had to deal with private farms, with small farms, and instead of having mass factory farming, we had small farms supply for like the big butcher companies from big supermarkets and so on.
I assume that your ancestors ate meat a lot often.
Yeah, the general like meal for Serbs, even historically, was just dried meat, some vegetables like onions, bread, and sometimes kaimak, which is like our regional dairy specialty. Yeah.
Right, fair enough. Are Serbians pro-Russians or pro-Americans?
In general, they're more pro-Russian. Most Serbs aren't pro-American, mostly because we got bombed in the 90s. Like in 99, Serbia was bombed by the US, and most people do not trust neither NATO nor the US after that.
So they are, let's say, more positive towards Russians, right? Oh, that's interesting. That's pretty interesting.
Mostly because throughout history, Russia has been a big ally of Serbia, even though there have been periods where we didn't get along. For the most part, it has been a brotherly interaction between us. And the reaction from the Russians is similar. Serbs really do have a better opinion of Russia than like the average European, but Russians have a really positive view on us, so that's something that really made me happy when I arrived here. This before I heard a lot of story, oh, it's just one-sided. It's not really the case. No.
Okay. That's interesting. In terms of appearance, what's the biggest difference between Serbian and Koreans?
Dress-wise, or like
Just everything.
I mean, first and foremost, one is a Slavic group, one is an East Asian group. That's the expected one. Serbs can either dress really well or look horrible, and there's no in between. Women tend to dress really well. Men, not so much. Something I had to learn here is how to properly dress, and like
in Russia.
Appearances matter a lot more in Russia than they do in Serbia. At least when it comes to how you dress. How you behave is a completely different story.
What was the hardest thing as a Serbian living in Russia?
Well, at the start it was learning the language, because there's, especially coming from a place that speaks the Slavic language, there's a period where it's easier when you're first learning the language, and then you get to a certain point where there's too many false friends and too many words.
False friends?
Yeah. False friends.
You mean Russians?
No, as in the words you think you know but you don't really know.
Okay.
So Serbian and Russian have a lot of words that have the same root or are similar or sound exactly the same, but completely
different meanings.
Different meanings, yeah.
Okay.
So a funny one in for every single Serbian has an issue ordering chicken for the first month, because chicken, as in is in Russian kuritsa, in Serbian means small penis.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So for us, the first month, it's really hard to order anything with chicken.
So what about like in terms of like mingling with people and making friends?
It was definitely difficult at first because the mentality is drastically different. Like,
drastically different.
Yeah, Serbs are extremely social.
Okay.
We are the type of people that generally like, we meet someone and in 15 minutes we treat them like we've known them for 10 years and we're partying and it's just normal.
Okay.
Like we're very touchy, we're huggy, we are just a very relaxed group, which makes sense because we're Mediterranean. Generally Mediterranean people tend to have that temperament. Russians, like most Nordic people, like most people in the north, tend to be more walled, tend to be more private. Generally, when you actually get to like meet them and properly introduce yourself, and you know, after a couple of times going out with them, you get to a similar point as you do with Serbs. But it takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of time to get to that point.
All right. Okay. I think it's a prejudice, you know, that Russians are cold, rough. I mean,
yeah, it is,
because I think they're one of the nicest people if you actually get to know them. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I always tell my friends, Russians are not cold. They just have walls, and you have to pass. Like, you need to be selected by them. You can't just force yourself like you do with like Serbian groups and like friends in the Mediterranean, stuff like that. You have to actually earn their trust and earn their friendship.
Okay.
So once you actually get to that point where they like you and they want to hang out with you, it's basically the same. They're some of the friendliest people on the planet, but you need to work to get to that point.
Okay. How do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, in 5 years, I'll probably be doing my PhD, so...
Okay.
busy nerding out and looking at.
What's your major?
I'm about to finish mineralogy of strategically relevant mineral deposits.
Okay.
In Serbia, I graduated with a specialization in mineralogy and crystallography.
How many languages do you speak? Three? Serbian, Russian,
Yeah,
and
Serbian, Russian, and English. Yeah.
English.
Granted, if we count because of politics, technically I can say I speak Bosnian, Montenegrin, and Croatian, but those are all the same language.
Personally, if it's a personal question, I will just edit it. Are you, as a student who is studying Russian, I'm just curious, are you more like a pro-Russian or pro-American?
Personally, I'm pro-Russian, but I have nothing against the US. I have family over there. I have against their politics, and specifically like the last administration, Biden was one of the main people that was advocating in the 90s for the bombing of Serbia, so I definitely did not like him, which is, logical. But in general, I don't think there's bad people on either side. I think that personally, my values align more with Russia's values.
Okay.
Both politically and culturally.
All right. Okay.
But I have no specific hate towards either group, and I think stuff like what's going on right now with the war and everything. Wars are just a political event that happens because of mismanagement on one or both sides. It's sometimes it's not even mismanagement. Sometimes it's just a natural flow.
What was your first impression when you just saw me at first? It was Andre's birthday, right?
Yeah, we were at Andre's birthday. Thought you looked fun. You look like a chill guy. We got you talking, and I was right, basically. Yes. Lik, obožavam ga, jedan od mojih najboljih prijatelja koji sam stekao ovde i prijavite se na njegov YouTube kanal, lajkujte, subscribe-ujte sve standardno, pratite ga, bit će nešto od njega.
Okay, guys, in 5 years I will make sure to make another interview with Dmitry. Let's see if he's actually doing his PhD or not, and let's see how it goes. Yeah, sure. So that's about it. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Have a good one.